All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So my plan here is to make a video about the market, and then I'm actually going to start making some videos about some tickers shortly after. And really, me saying that I think gives you an idea of what I'm feeling, right? So far, for what feels like the last month, maybe even a little bit more, I've been saying, hey, I'm too afraid to look at tickers, right? The market's just not that good. It's not that good. I'd rather wait, do something, maybe only look at inverses, right? I think there's some interesting things going on right now. Obviously, the 90-day pause is a big deal, right? But I think to me, there are some technical things that I'm seeing that, just they do align with what happened with a lot of the stuff that Trump did, right? So I'll do my best to talk about the news. Again, I'm not here to really talk about politics. I barely follow politics in all honesty. In politics, I feel like I'm saying that weird. I barely follow it in general, right? So this is more to me about the technicals than anything else. But I think the easy thing is this tariff thing is still very important to the market, right? So that's for sure going to be the bare bone fundamental. I think the one easy thing to call out too before I go any further is look, this is NASDAQ right here. This is the S&P 500 right here. And this is the Dow Jones right here. They're all basically looking the same right now. They're all were potentially fearing the 100 moving average drop. They actually got really close to the 200 moving average on the weekly as well. And now they're all nicely over the 100, doing better compared to last week, and really what seems like trying to get back up to the 8 moving average, right? So I like harmony, right? It's important to me that the indices are doing the same thing. I am glad that that's happening. And like I said, there might be a window here of okay. And it only takes a little bit of okay to do really well on our accounts, right? So that's the goal here. So before we do go any further, though, and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So a lot has happened in the last few days, right? I mean, I would say these 4 followed by the next 4. I mean, this has been the craziest 8 days of indice movement, or 8 trading days of indice movement that I've probably seen as an educated trader. You know what I mean? I mentioned being really young for 2008. I knew nothing about stocks in 2012, and really it was only a couple of years after '08, right? 2020, I was definitely doing some stock things, but I was not good. I was still like losing money and stuff. You know what I mean? So this is my first interesting market as a decent technical trader. You know what I mean? As an educated trader is what I like to say, right? So what a crazy 8 days. And I really like looking at I like looking at this weekly chart. I think a little bit more than the daily. I do, because man, I mean, red to green, and like there's so many things. I'm gonna come back to the daily a lot, right? But I think the weekly capturing it all in basically 2 candles, right? Maybe third if you want to kind of consider this one, but these 2 are the 8 days of trading that I was talking about, right? And man, it's a little easier to digest 2 candles than it is 8, right? So I actually really like the weekly movement for here. And by no means am I going to brag about my line, but I can't believe it basically opens to the penny, right? What I'm focusing on, obviously these 2 lines, and I mean these 2 candles, and you'll talk about them. I mentioned in the opening thoughts, look how close we got to the 200 moving average on the weekly, right? As I zoom out, I remember saying this on the last couple of videos. Look, '08 was the only time we actually lost the 200 200 moving average on the weekly. 2012 didn't do it, right? Or 2011, whenever it was supposed to happen. Even COVID really doesn't do it, right? That's actually the 2020, 2019 peak. There was this little bit that happened right here, right? Like maybe this is a little after COVID, I don't even remember, but like literally the worst of COVID didn't even lose it, right? So it was looking crazy. And hey, this was an important candle. This was we're not going to go under the 200. We're actually going to come back over the 100, right? And again, on this 1-2, this is why we stress confirmation, right? One candle under a moving average, even if it's that bad a candle, right? And look at the low. The low was 15,575. Wow, that was tough to. We were basically what, $8? No, 11, $12. Damn, bad math. $12 over the low of that candle, right? There's barely any wick down there, right? Like that's a big, bad, scary candle. But again, one under the moving average is never enough. We needed to wait for this Friday close. And hey, look at that. Not only did we get better than 50%, we're actually nicely over. And what? We probably regained like 80 something percent of that last week candle, right? So really nice right there, to say the least, right? I think the bad part, let me say the good, it's kind of intertwined, okay? So for the 100 moving average, it's a check mark, right? What really matters next is this 8 moving average. All right, so I'm going to come to the daily real quick. Because again, the daily is going to move 5 times faster than the weekly, right? Because it takes 5 dailies for 1 week to close. What the daily was doing was going under the 8 and to the 8, under the 8 and to the 8, under the 8 and 2, like, right? It just kind of kept doing that. It eventually was able to actually get over the 8, go to the 20, and then obviously it failed that, right? So what's the weekly been doing? It's been going away from the 8 and then kind of coming back to it. We've gone away from the 8 and now we're on the path of coming back to it, right? It seems like the 8's probably gonna, what, open right there. I mean, that's probably like, I don't know the math behind these lines. You know that, right? The 8's probably gonna open, give or take, right there. This might be the week of this right here. We've gone away, we came to it, we came away, we came to it, we came away. We might try to get over it and maybe even get to the 20 moving average, right? And if that could happen, that would be real big, right? Obviously, the 50 moving average is right there, so maybe the 20 is the wrong line, because I don't know if that slope's going to start turning down that drastically. But hey, if I'm guessing that the 8 moving average is going to be around like 17 something, and the 50 still all the way up here at 18 something, oh man, there's a real nice potential gap right there, right? So hopefully you understood that, and let me know in the comments if you didn't, right? But what was happening here might be kind of setting up here. Look, even if it doesn't get over it, right? If it can't do that much, I think even trying to go from down here from a 16.7 all the way up to what looks like maybe a 17.3, 17.4, that could be a real nice move right there, right? So that's kind of what we're looking for on the way up. And again, it's the exact same thing on all the indices, right? This held the 100. We've gone away from the 8. We came back to the 8. We went away from the 8. It seems like we're going to go back to the 8. Maybe we can even go back all the way up to the 50 right there, right? Dow Jones, you can imagine, I'm going to say the exact same things, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking for right now. I don't know if we'll actually get over the 8. If we do, oh, that's going to be a nice little moment, right? But hey, even from down here to back up to the 8 could bring some nice gains, all right? So again, I normally do things on the daily chart and then kind of flash the weekly. This was the other way around, because again, with the indices, you do need a little bit more of a bigger time frame, right? So I look at the daily on the indices when we're in a super monster going uptrend, right? And that's what it's been for what, I mean, I don't know how many years, right? So it's one of those things where just right now we want the later time frames to stabilize, and then that's when we'll start focusing again day to day, right? So the other thing I wanted to call out, look, what happens is, and we talk about this on stocks a lot too, right? An RSI, and you know I've been ignoring the RSI, right? But the RSI is supposed to go up to 80, down to 30, up to 80, down to 30, right? Sometimes you generally live around 50 and you'll go 50, 80, 50, 80, 50, 80, and that's a healthy cool down, go up, cool down, go up. Other times you go down low, back to 50, down low, back to 50, down low, back to 50, right? The RSI on the weekly got to 19. That's crazy, crazy low. It really is, right? 30 is actually crazy low. 19 is insanely low, right? And again, we're going to look at the S&P 500. Last week, look, I had a line at 26. It actually went under that, and you can see the RSI was 23 right here. DJ 30. This one, actually, this one wasn't too bad. This one was in the 30. You can tell I look at the Dow Jones the least, right? But NASDAQ going to 19 for sure caught my eye and was for sure, it seemed like a recovery would come, right? We're now back to the baseline 30. In my head, I think we'll go 30 to 50. And in my head, I think that's what's making me think we'll go from down here to the 8 moving average, maybe even just a peak a little higher, right? Because going from 30 to a 50 RSI is actually a pretty nice little thing right there, right? What I don't know is if we're going to go from 50 back to 30, right? I don't know if we're just doing a healthy cool up before we cool down again, right? And again, you see it on the daily, right? I'm coming to the daily, and this is the drop basically started in February, right? We were up here at 60. We dropped down here all the way to 18, right? You're looking in the RSI box right there on the left, right? We then go all the way back up to 55. We then come all the way back down to 20. We're now probably going to make our way back up to that same 55 that I mentioned, right? And I don't know if this is the first down to up that's going to be back to a down, or if we're going to try to sneak over that 50, right? But again, what is 5 times faster on the daily is now seemingly happening on the weekly. And all I'm really feeling, and really it was in the Discord, I think it was Xmas Holiday who said it well, right? Like it and look at that, he's actually holding some positive calls over the week. Again, doesn't matter, no one what your whole, like, I'm not here to tell you what I buy and sell, right? Everyone, you know that, right? But there seems to be the eye of the storm right here. I think we're gonna head up to the next moving average and then wait. All right. So I really assumed I would talk about the tariff stuff a lot sooner, but I think all that alone really shows you I see more technical things happening than the market noise and than the media noise and all that stuff. All right. So the tariffs. Number one, I can't tell you how bad this candle was for me. I was very heavy on the inverses, was not expecting that to happen. I got stopped out, but obviously it took way more profit than I was expecting, right? And I think that's going to be a real important thing for this market, right? Our president does some drastic changes at the drop of a dime, right? And I'm not here to tell you if I agree with them or not. We're not here to talk about politics, right? But that is the reality of our environment, right? And I think it just goes back to, oh man, it's hard to hold overnight, let alone the weekend, just given how drastic things can change, right? From there, look, again, I don't really know about like global economics by any means. But when it comes to the tariffs, right, the one major thing I've been saying is the market just simply doesn't like the uncertainty of everything, right? It was happy to see the pause, but hey, it wasn't so happy that good things happen over the 8 and the 20. Right? Yeah, we're nicely over the 8. And I'm excited about that. I'm hoping we go back to the 20, right? But we need to get back over the 20, right? And I want to get over the 20 so we can start making that move to the 50 up here, right? I briefly mentioned 18 something on that weekly earlier, right? Like the possibility is here. I think we can go from this 39 RSI maybe to like a 55, maybe even to like a 60-ish, right? I just don't know if we're going to fall down hard after that, right? And the real reality, that's a tough cluster to get over. It's going to be hard to get over 18,600 because that's basically right in the middle of the 100 and the 200 cluster right there, right? Like this 50 is going to be coming down soon, right? I'm kind of like not including it in the cluster, but at the moment it's actually a 3, right? So I think there's some good that can happen. Listen, If we go below 16,300 on NASDAQ, if we go below SP, this is an interesting chart. If SPVM can, oh, that's really low volume. No, we're going to skip that. SPX. If we lose the 100 moving average, if the S&P 500 loses 5,150, right? If Dow Jones loses, what's that? If Dow Jones loses 38,700, let's call it, that's going to be really, really scary. Number one, it's going to be a very substantial drop from the candle. And then obviously it's going to be a loss of the moving average, right? But I think we're heading up. I'm just not yet sold that we're good. All right. The last just real fact, and I can show it on any of the indices, we dropped hard after this Wednesday, the 2nd, right? I don't know if we're going to get back over that, right? Even when I look at NASDAQ, which is the one I'm, again, most familiar with, right? Oh, no, I'm wrong. I do think that there's a shot at 18. Okay, interesting. Let's see if we can get over that second candle. If we can get over the second candle, all really good things would happen, I think is an easy thing to say. All right. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Oh, I appreciate you so, so much.